Computational English by Lucian Green, exploring opposites in Hamlet 3 and 4. 21. I prepared to scroll the text down and add a new conclusion at the vanishing point on the horizon. I did this by concluding a new conclusion from two conclusions. First, I read the first conclusion. Second, I read the second conclusion. Third, I wrote a third conclusion formed from the first clause in the first conclusion and the second clause in the second conclusion. In this way, I prepared to scroll the text down and add a new conclusion at the vanishing point on the horizon by concluding a new conclusion from two conclusions. 22. I prepared to show the characters in Hamlet failed. I prepared to show that we can learn from Hamlet. I did this by critically evaluating Hamlet. First, I wrote that Hamlet was mostly negative, positive. Second, I wrote it was mostly with us. Third, I wrote that it was English too. In this way I prepared to show the characters in Hamlet failed. I prepared to show that we can learn from Hamlet by critically evaluating Hamlet. 23. I prepared to summarize the ontologies in Hamlet. I did this by comparing similarities in Hamlet. First, I wrote how all the negative, positive ideas in Hamlet were similar. Second, I wrote how all the positive ideas in Hamlet were similar. Third, I recorded these. In this way, I prepared to summarize the ontologies in Hamlet by comparing similarities in Hamlet. 24. I prepared to contrast ontologies in Hamlet. I did this by contrasting differences in Hamlet. First, I contrasted positive and negative, positive ideas in Hamlet. Second, I recorded these. Third, I delivered a speech about this contrast. In this way, I prepared to contrast ontologies in Hamlet by contrasting differences in Hamlet. 25. I prepared to listen to the high-quality voice. I did this by observing the International Council encourage the better quality speaker to speak. First, I observed the selector listen to the speaker. Second, I observed the selector invite the speaker to the conference. Third, I observed the speaker speak at the conference. In this way, I prepared to listen to the high-quality voice by observing the International Council encourage the better quality speaker to speak. 26. I prepared to write an argument about Hamlet. I did this by arguing that Hamlet was positive. First, I wrote that Hamlet provided epistemological data to be positive. Second, I wrote that the epistemological data provided details of the suicide, which could be prevented. Third, I prevented this. In this way, I prepared to write an argument about Hamlet by arguing that Hamlet was positive. 27. I prepared to observe the child write about Hamlet. I did this by stating that the child was coaxed to the point. First, I saw the child. Second, I saw that the child was coaxed to the point. Third, I wrote this down. In this way, I prepared to observe the child write about Hamlet by stating that the child was coaxed to the point. 28. I prepared to observe spoon-feeding at school. I did this by observing the teacher spoon the student. First, I observed that the student required the answer. Second, I observed the teacher recognize this. Third, I observed the teacher spoon the answer to the student. In this way, I prepared to observe spoon-feeding at school by observing the teacher spoon the student. 29. I prepared to consolidate the reasoning chapters from my postgraduate qualification by writing essays based on them. I did this by writing that my work would as high quality as 50 as because I would write arguments when I was available. First, I studied a postgraduate qualification. Second, I wrote reasoning chapters. Third, I wrote essays based on these. In this way, I prepared to consolidate the reasoning chapters from my postgraduate qualification by writing essays based on them by writing that my work would as high quality as 50 as because I would write arguments when I was available. 30. I prepared to observe the movement between the bodies. I did this by connecting reasonings and area of study points as arguments. First, I wrote that the apple was on the plate. Second, I wrote that the fruit on the plate would be eaten. Third, I wrote that the apple would be eaten. In this way, I prepared to observe the movement between the bodies by connecting reasonings and area of study points as arguments.